What's going on, guys? My name is Tommy. Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another episode of Wednesday Afternoon Worship. Today is an auspicious day. Today, at the request of Adam Spain, we round out our mini-series on the 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse. As always, with stats as monsters in Bestiary 6 and with lore expanded in Book of the Damned, today we'll be talking about the Horseman of Death, Charon. As always, this channel is supported by its patrons, and today, this episode of Wednesday Afternoon Worship goes out to the man who requested it, Mr. Adam Spain of the Inn of Planar Crossroads. Adam, as always, thank you for your friendship. Thank you for GMing for me. We couldn't do this without you, and as this drops on Wednesday, assuming nothing gets snafu'd, earlier today, I had a special channel spotlight with the one, the only Nerdarchy because of you. So again, thank you very, very, very much for all you do for the channel. But enough about all that, let's dive in. Once again, to quote the Book of Revelations, "When the Lamb broke the 4th seal, I heard the voice of the 4th living creature saying, 'Come.' I looked and behold, an ashen horse, and he who sat on it had the name Death. Authority was given to them over 1/4 of the earth, to kill with sword, and with famine, and with pestilence, and by the wild beasts of the earth. Of all the riders, he is the only one whom the text itself explicitly gives a name. Unlike the other 3, he's not described carrying a weapon or other object. Instead, he's followed by Hades, the Greek god of the underworld. However, illustrations commonly depict the dude as carrying a scythe a la the Grim Reaper, sword, or other weapon of war. In Greek mythology, Sharan or Charon, or if you've played Fallout 3, Sharan, is the ferryman of Hades who carries souls of the newly deceased across the river Styx. The Horseman of Death in Pathfinder takes a similar role and the same name. Charon, the Horseman of Death and Boatman of the Styx, is ancient even in comparison to the other horsemen. Mortals whisper that, of all the 4, he alone is the only original horseman, the first and only Lord of Death. Yet Charon's title hides his true focus. Charon holds dominion not simply over death as a whole, which is the purview of all Daemons, but specifically over death by old age. Even the hardiest of mortals eventually succumb to that looming specter, and so it's not surprising that many consider the boatman the most powerful of the 4 horsemen. The legendary force of Charon's patience echoes the certainty of mortality's inevitable end, and he is more willing than any of the other horsemen to sacrifice immediate gains for a guaranteed eventual victory. Charon is also the most secretive of his kind, holding knowledge of many things forgotten before his kindred were even living mortals. Despite his age, Charon has not been challenged since he rose to power in the earliest days of Abaddon, or if he has, no one speaks of it. Daemons in Charon's service rove far and wide across Abaddon, often riding up the Styx itself to other reaches of the cosmos, hunting souls in his name. Unlike servitors of the other horsemen, his own often act in understated and subtle ways, yet they harvest just as many souls. It is said Charon operates alongside his servitors, fishing for souls in the exact same way, and that any daemon looking upon one of the Thanadaemons, Charon's servitors, might in fact be looking into the face of Charon himself. True or not, the rumor hangs over daemons' every interaction with Charon's chosen. Not all souls claimed in Charon's name are consumed. Many daemons capture or only partially devour their cargo, then vomit the screaming souls into the Styx. Gross. The souls boil, the souls churn, and eventually they assume the shapes they had in life. Their bodies drift brutalized, struggling to find purchase in the fouled waters before being fished from the current by Charon's Thanadaemons. When approached independently by a soul or, a given adventurer hanging out along the river Styx, Charon and his servitors sometimes simply carry the guest off to be consumed. At other times, however, they make deals, their bargains working towards ends hundreds of thousands of years in the future. In the beginning, such a deal might benefit the bargainer, with Charon's forces rescuing a soul from its rightful afterlife, transporting a party to a place it needs to go, or safeguarding an entire material plane nation or world from disaster. But inevitably, the terms of the deal take their toll, and Charon's coffers are always flooded with souls foolishly bargained away by their owners. These dealings aren't limited to mortals. Charon has bargained with dozens of dying and desperate archdevils, divinities, and even entire worlds, offering them aid in return for payments of souls, knowing all the while that the bargainers were beyond saving before they came to him. When they die, he claims their souls as well, and his domain hosts demonic feasts of an untold scale. Charon's dealings benefit him in all things, and even his fellows among the Four often acquiesce to his authority. As the oldest and only surviving original member of the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse, Sharan alone knows the true history of Abaddon, accounts for which are brutally revisited and scoured to suit the purpose of each new horseman upon the death of his or her predecessor. Charon does not necessarily share these secrets with the new horsemen, who he considers junior colleagues. The only exception to this is the recently deposed Lutheria, original horseman of famine, who he saw as something akin to a sister. Charon actively seeks to keep any friction or disagreement between members of the Four a secret among them, ensuring that they present a godlike, perfectly unified, and unassailable front to their subjects. This is ostensibly because he doesn't wish to tempt any of these minions with the chance to depose one of their number and become a horseman themselves, though many suspect that Charon has precipitated just such a revolt against one or another of the other horsemen in the past. The neutral evil horseman of death grants his cultists the domains of death, evil, knowledge, and water, with subdomains Daemon, ice, memory, and undead. His unholy symbol is a grinning skull, its eyes covered by gold coins. His favorite weapon is the quarterstaff. Temples include graveyards, rivers, ruins, and catacombs. And his worshippers include ferrymen, grave robbers, undead, undertakers, and would-be immortals. His deific obedience requires us to meditate upon your infirmities and the slow, inevitable progression of physical and mental decay inherent to the ravages of time. Mimic this progression by immersing yourself or a victim in icy water until nearly unconscious, or by consuming alcohol and or drugs that dull memory and mental faculties. In return, we gain a +4 profane bonus on saving throws against necromancy and negative energy effects. His evangelist boons allow us to cast Memory Lapse thrice a day, Catatonia twice a day, or create Soul Gem once a day. At 16th level, as a standard action, you can crush a Soul Gem to gain fast healing 15 for a number of rounds equal to your hit dice. This action condemns the crushed soul to Abaddon. Resurrecting this victim requires a DC 28 caster level check. At 20th level, you can use Soulbind as a spell-like ability once a day. The Exalted Boons grant us access to Rave Enfeeblement thrice a day, Death Knell twice a day, or Sands of Time once a day. At 16th level, by channeling the memory-sapping ability of the River Styx, you can stun foes with a sudden but temporary loss of all memory. You can use this ability 3 times a day, activating it as a swift action when you strike a foe in combat with a melee weapon. The creature struck is stunned for 1 round, and then staggered for an additional 1d4 plus 1 rounds if it fails a will save with a DC equal to 10 plus half your hit dice plus your charisma modifier. On a successful save, the creature is instead staggered for a round. This is a mind-affecting effect. At 20th level, once a day as a standard action, you can call upon the waters of the Styx to bubble up and manifest as an immense skeletal talon of mud and black water. The effect duplicates the effects of Grasping Hand, except any creature that is grappled by the hand must also succeed at a fortitude save against the spell or gain a negative level. The Sentinel Boons grant us access to Mount thrice a day, War Train twice a day, or Phantom Steed once a day. Again, this is a common thing amongst all the 4 horsemen. At 16th level, you gain the ability to evoke the power of the Pale Horse. As a swift action, you cause a flickering image of the Pale Horse to appear in a 10-foot square adjacent to you. It then moves up to 120 feet as you mentally direct its movement. Doing so is a move action that requires concentration. The image of the Pale Horse ignores difficult terrain and can walk over water or other surfaces that would normally not bear a creature's weight, but it cannot fly. Any creature whose space the image of the Pale Horse passes through must succeed at a fortitude save or take a -6 penalty to strength, dexterity, and constitution, as it has suddenly aged to become venerable. Creatures such as dragons that normally gain benefits from aging do not gain any benefits, and they instead take the ability score penalties described above. These penalties do not stack with themselves or with existing old age penalties. A creature can resist the effects with a successful fortitude save, DC 10 plus half HD plus charisma modifier. A creature can be affected by the Pale Horse only once a round, regardless of how many times the Pale Horse moves through its space. At 20th level, once a day, you can call upon Charon's power to wither your enemies into dust which functions as Wail of the Banshee, except it lacks a sonic component. This is probably my favorite of the three by far. We summon the Pale Horse, we slap everybody's con around, and then we blast them with Wail of the Banshee. Somebody is probably failing that save, and they're gonna take a lot of damage. I can dig it. In his bestiary entry, the Horseman of Death hits the scales at CR 30. To my knowledge, there are no creatures higher than CR 30 in all of Pathfinder. This is it. Charon is an apex predator. Killing him nets you almost 10 million experience points. I gotta say, I've never looked at these stats before reading this. I wanted to kind of like let it be surprising to me. And yeah, with no further ado, we're diving in. Sharan is treated as having access to all item creation feats listed in the Pathfinder RPG core rulebook plus craft construct for the purposes of creating magic items or construct. And that makes him even more powerful because if you need for him to have some sort of magic item to buff his stats, yeah, he's got it right there. To push it even farther, his spellcraft is plus 51 and his caster level is 30th. So yeah, this guy's gonna succeed. He doesn't even need the spells to make the items. He's got it. The first time in a round that Charon strikes a creature with a weapon or successful touch attack, the creature must succeed at a DC 40 fort save or instantly grow decrepit and feeble as the target suddenly becomes venerable. The target's constitution, dexterity, and strength scores are reduced by 6, but its mental ability scores are not increased. If Charon touches or strikes a venerable target, either naturally venerable or a creature who's suffering from this variability, the creature is subject to memory loss. Memory loss in Charon's entry being a DC 40 will save or 2 permanent negative levels, as swaths of memory are wiped away from the target. These negative levels are mind-affecting effects, but not a negative energy effect. If these negative levels cause the target's total number of negative levels to equal or exceed its hit dice, instead of dying, the target enters a catatonic state that lasts as long as the negative levels from the Stygian bolts continue to cause its total number of negative levels to equal or exceed its hit dice. Once per hour as a standard action, Charon can transport himself and any adjacent creatures, such as, passengers on his boat, to any point touched by the river Styx, even if Charon is not currently on a plane through which the river Styx is flowing, traveling as if the plane shifts spell. And for the record, the river Styx originates on the plane of Abaddon, but snakes its way throughout the outer sphere and touches Axis, Hell, the Abyss, and the Maelstrom before finally landing at the base of Pharasma's spire. So this guy's got a lot of places he can take you for sure, and again, this is only native to Pathfinder's setting. If this guy appears in your setting, the river Styx can wind anywhere, and you could make Charon be able to teleport anyone anywhere. As a standard action, Charon can spit 4 blasts of Stygian water from his mouth. Each of these Stygian bolts can target a different creature. These attacks are treated as ranged attacks with a range increment of 100 feet. On a hit, a Stygian bolt deals 10d6 points of bludgeoning damage and inflicts memory loss. Charon's regeneration, that regeneration being 20 over deific or mythic, cannot be overcome by any means when he is in physical contact with the river Styx or when he is aboard his skiff while on the river Styx. As a swift action, Charon causes his mount, the Pale Horse, to transform into that skiff, which carries him and up to 4 passengers. He can also transform the skiff back into the Pale Horse as a swift action, in which case he automatically mounts the horse and any passengers or cargo he may have are dumped into adjacent squares. We won't read all of them, but Charon, like all of the Horsemen, has access to a whole plethora of spells, including spells that make undead, including Time Stop, Wish, and like all the other Horsemen and all the other things of like this CR range, he can use the mythic variant of those spells in his realm, which I'm going to go ahead and interpret as anywhere on the river Styx. This guy doesn't seem like a whole lot because there's not a whole lot of like big numbers thrown around in his entry, but no, this guy will get there. It's all about debuffing the party, it's all about making them weaker, and somebody's going to fail a DC 40 will save eventually. As a final aside before we round out this series, I will note that the River of Styx, born in Abaddon at the Drowning Court, going through several layers of hell and numerous layers of the abyss before pooling beneath Pharasma's spire, has its own stats as to what it can do to people. The waters stink of ammonia, and its sickly dark green color verges on black, but even through the darkness, souls trapped within are often plainly visible. The waters of the Styx erase memories. A splash is enough to cause a fugue state, while full immersion causes total amnesia. Both of these appear in the horror adventure supplement. Great book. You should read it if you get the chance. If for no other reason, then you get to see all the core iconics turn into monsters. In both cases, a player must attempt a DC 25 will save to resist the effects of the waters. If you need to bump Charon up even more, have him fight in the River Styx. But I digress. I've spoken about these guys enough. Have you ever used Charon in a campaign? Have you ever worshipped him? What do you guys think of the Horsemen of Death? If you've got anything else to add, throw it in the comments below and we will keep the conversation going. Again, this concludes our mini-series on the 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse. Now everyone else's requests will come to the fore. We've got 3 more waiting in the wings, and next week we'll be talking about the Archdevil Moloch. As always, be sure to like and subscribe for more videos. The next episode of Wednesday Afternoon Worship drops next Wednesday.